Hi, my name is Ashley Fulmer. I'm the NGSS coordinator, and I will be taking you through day one of the launch. And this will be the very short and Cliff Notes version of it. So I am going to skip through some of the pieces that were more logistical, just so that I have time to get through the entire adoption, this day of the adoption, and not make it too long. Okay. So we did introduce our team, and I do think it's important that you know who is part of the planning, and that is Felicia Cruz Delgado, Director of Curriculum and Assessment, myself. I am the NGSS coordinator, Shannon Dadlis, our elementary staff developer, and Heather McDonald, our secondary TOSA. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through some of these pieces. So I wanted to start with why we began with 6th through 8th grade. And it's actually the last bullet point on here, but I think it is one of the most important. And it is that the 6th through 8th grade teachers began the transition to NGSS first. And that began in 2014 when we had to start making that decision of integrated versus discipline specific progression. And so teachers have been working with NGSS standards a little bit longer. And so we definitely knew that this was the area that needed materials first. The next question we had was, why should we include 6th grade in our adoption process? And so when we got down to it, and after we had lots of discussions for about a month, we finally decided that we should definitely include. And the reasons were: one, the framework bands 6th through 8th grade performance expectations together. Two, the science concepts build from each other or build from year to year. So information taught in 6th grade is needed for 7th and 8th, and the CAST assesses 6th through 8th grade. So all those pieces put together allowed us to make the decision to go ahead and move forward with 6th through 8th grade. So the process is this, and I'll let you look at it. This is meeting 1, and so I'm going to take you through that, and then you can see other screencasts on the other meetings later. And then anytime you want to access anything, there is a bit.ly at the bottom. And so if you get access to this presentation, if you click the link at the top here, it will take you to the calendar, so then you can see that as well. Okay, so as a representative, their role is to represent the site, gain feedback from your site, and be objective and open to new curriculum. If you are not a representative, your role really is to give the feedback to your representative so that your voice is heard and that your site has their needs met as well in this process. Okay, so what we began with is digging into the Guide for Instructional Direction. We had the teachers read pages 11 through 14 with the lens of what key components from this document would make for an effective science instructional program. So if you need access to that document, if you click on the picture, it will take you there. Once the teachers read that, we had them share the key components that they wrote down, and as a group, write down their top 3 on a poster paper. We then dug into the framework. The executive summary is a shortened version of the actual framework, which is thousands of pages. And so this is just a much shorter version. And if you'd like to see this, again, click on the picture and it'll take you there. And so we chunked it so that the teachers would read a certain number of pages at a time. And again, looking for those important ideas or concepts and then writing those down. So first was the overview. And then they would discuss at their table what they wrote down. And so we gave them this handout and had them just taking notes in this section. The second time through was the grade level guidance, which was pages 6 and 16 to 20, which focused on the middle school standards. Again, doing the same thing, writing down notes and then discussing with the table. And then the third was the topic-specific guidance and the California Environmental Principles and Concepts, or the EPs and Cs. And these are required by the state of California for instruction. And so again, doing the same thing, taking notes, and then sharing at your table. And then we had them take a moment to kind of look over what they wrote in that handout and identify the really big key components. And as a group, then share those key components and then decide on the top 3 that they wanted to add to their poster. And it could have been the same thing, or it could have been 3 new things as well. Okay, then we had a break. And then we came back in and dug into chapter 11 of the framework. And there were 2 pieces of this chapter we wanted to look at: the key instructional shifts and instructional strategies for sequencing lessons. And so with this, we jigsawed it, and they had the teachers at the table read one section. It was about 2 pages, take notes on it, and then we had them share out at their table. And then you would write down the notes from what everybody else shared out. Okay, so we did that with the first section, did the same thing for the second section. And again, if you want access to this chapter, you just click on the picture and it'll take you to that link. So again, jigsawed it, had you take notes on one section, then listen to what everybody else said on the other sections, and then took notes. Did the same thing again, individually consider what the key components were, and then as a group, share those out together, and then decide on your top 3. So now the poster had 9 different things written on it. And so our next step was then to develop our guiding principles. And so first we had them look at their poster, combine any ideas where they may be similar, and then rank the key concepts on the poster, starting with number 1 is the most important. Then we had them do a gallery walk and see what everybody else wrote down on their posters, and then reflect and revise, taking that idea of modeling, and if there was anything they wanted to add in or change, they had that opportunity. And then as a group, we decided on what our guiding principles were. And so our poster came out like this, and our guiding principles were that it needed to be student-centered for all students, it needed to be phenomena-based, there needed to be 3-dimensional assessments, there needed to be some technology components, and integration. Okay. So then we started talking about instructional programs. So the state of California reviewed 29 different programs, and from that list, we then did some pre-screening as a team, and our first gateway was that programs had to be an integrated program and not discipline specific, had to be 6th through 8th grade program and approved by the state of California. So there were programs that were submitted to the state of California but did not meet their expectations and were not passed as approved. Okay, so that left us with these 8 different publishers. And then we did a pre-screening and looked at phenomena-driven materials and lessons and assessments that were 3-dimensional, really looking at that. And that was our second gateway. And we eliminated 2 more and then presented these 6 publishers to the team to go ahead and dive into. So at this point, we had them go to lunch. But when they came back, what we did was have them go through the materials with 3 different lenses. First, we had them go through the lens of phenomena. So we talked about what phenomena is. And if you don't know, there are 2 different types, anchor and investigative. And anchor is that big overarching one that covers the entire unit, and investigative are the smaller ones. Phenomena should elicit curiosity, be purposeful, revisited throughout the lesson in unit as well. So this was really important to look at. So we gave an example of an investigative phenomena and an anchor phenomena, and then we had the teachers go through using this tool. And so looking at those key components on the left, looking at the different publishers and giving them a score. Did the same thing again with students or figuring out. And these rubrics are coming from the California NGSS Toolkit for Instructional Materials Evaluation, which was approved by the state of California and put forward by our county offices. And so, again, did the same thing with students figuring out, had them go through looking at the different components of this through those, looking at the 6 publishers through this lens. Okay, here we go. And then the last component we wanted them to look at was 3-dimensional assessments. So talking about what 3-dimensional assessments actually look like, here's an example from the CAST and how it's broken down. And you can see that it is 3-dimensional because there's an SCP, a DCI, and a CCC. And you can even see the DOK level. Okay, and again, how the teachers look through with this lens. And here's the rubric for that. Okay. And then once we did that, we had them rank which 4 that they would like to see publisher presentations using the data that they had gathered and all the conversations that they had had about everything. We came to this. And so this led us to publisher presentations by Amplify, Discovery, FOSS, and STEM Scopes. And that is it for day 1 of our launch of the materials adoption.